Hey everybody, this is Darth Bryboy. It's been a damn long time since I've made a video, specifically anything regarding a rant, but this is going to be a multifaceted rant, if you will, covering topics that are just in my head, screaming at me to get it out of my system because I'm angry, I'm depressed, I'm going, what the fuck is happening to this world and society as we speak. So first I want to talk about the big one. The fact that Biden, in a Democratic fundraiser, said we are closer to Armageddon, nuclear Armageddon, than we have been since the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Cuban fucking Missile Crisis. Now, regardless of the history of the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the escalation of that, there have been really good videos that have gone into how the hell that was, avoided, regardless of whether people blame Kennedy or Khrushchev. We avoided nuclear Armageddon because people talked to each other. And there was some rational understanding of assured nuclear destruction. And the reasons for the escalation were, I think, more understandable. I don't think it's unfair to say that both Kennedy and Khrushchev were rational in the sense that they understood we have to avoid this. Nobody wants to get blown the fuck up. And it's a miracle that that didn't happen. But the biggest difference we have now is we have a rational man, Joe Biden, and an irrational tyrant, Putin, who is having his own version of manifest destiny. I don't think you can say it's not his own version of it. Believing that he's entitled to invade sovereign countries like Ukraine, just pull an irrational invasion, annex parts of Ukraine with a fraud election, several fraud elections, and then out of nowhere be like, oh, I want to declare nuclear war. I will use any means necessary if Russia is threatened, because Russia's getting its ass kicked and Putin's panicking. He has the mindset of what any authoritarian has, which is irrationality. Which is, if I'm going down, I'm taking you fuckers with me. Putin's fucking insane. The guy comes off as a fucking real world supervillain. And if you're defending him, you're a fucking idiot. If you're defending Putin's actions for escalation, you're an idiot. Regardless of the hypocrisy of the United States, which, hey, that's a fucking thing that exists. Is it laughable that the U.S. is fanning concern about human rights violations when the U.S. has done it time and time again? Yeah, but is that relevant? No. Because what country right now is threatening nuclear war? What leader of a country is threatening nuclear war? Putin. Not Joe Biden. Not Zelensky. What imperialism is having really significant consequences, potential significant consequences, to this fragile fucking thing we call the world and society? Fucking Putin. That's who. I hope something horrible happens to him. I watched a clip on the BBC where Zelensky was like, I don't give a fuck if Putin lives or dies. I want the Russians to get the fuck out of here. And to just think, really think that our world is so fragile. And it's like, no fucking shit, the world's fragile. But the fact that we depend on everyone controlling countries that have nuclear weapons, we want to project or hope that they are rational people with a desire for survival. Understanding that once the first and only nuclear attack happened, that everybody just looked at each other and was like, yo, what the fuck? And once the genie was out of the bottle, the genie was out of the fucking bottle. And we've had this false belief that every nuclear superpower has a rational leader behind it. I think we've almost been conditioned. Because we go about our day, we drive to work, we take public transport to work, or we go to school or whatever, and we like to think the world just keeps turning, at least in Western society, or specifically the U.S. And then all of a sudden, with Biden going, we are facing potential Armageddon, or we're on the cusp of Armageddon, how do you respond as an average Joe? Do you panic? Do you contemplate what the fuck you've done with your life? Do you contemplate the gravitas of sheer and total annihilation? Like, what the fuck? It's either going to be this or climate change that kills us. And at a time period, mind you, the reason I'm bringing up climate change is that climate change is a topic where we all should be banding together. It really should. We should all realize the very real threat of climate change. That once the ocean fucking rises, our cities are wiped the fuck out. We create this mass migration and immigration. We create this influx of climate refugees where people are displaced, where people are worried about food and shelter and just having the right to live. Because we all deserve some form of comfort, some form of safety, some form of protection. We deserve to have a home to go to, food on the table. We deserve to not worry about these things, but so many of us do on this fucking planet. And we do have enough food to feed the entire fucking world. We do. They're just assholes, rich assholes, who don't want to do it. Who create artificial scarcity. Now, what the fuck does this have to do with what I was talking about with Putin here? It is the example, the belief that this evil asshole was rational. Because there were diplomatic moves that he made with the U.S. when Obama was president, where we worked together to fight against ISIS, because ISIS was a threat to both the U.S. and Russia. But we forget that philosophically and rationally, you can't reason with someone whose argument is, this land is mine, I'm going to take it, and fuck you if you try to stop me. I struggle with blatant immorality, blatant disregard for people, a lack of empathy. I can't stand it. I can't understand it. I don't understand how or why, when you're in a position of power, you're the leader of a country, instead of choosing to prevent suffering, instead of choosing to help your country, instead of making sure that the marginalized people there don't have to worry, you perpetuate their suffering. I'm talking about the LGBTQ people in Russia who are suffering. You hate monger. You paint them in a light that isn't there. I guess this just has to go to what I can't stand about the fucking right wing. It's either no empathy or very selective fucking empathy. Make no mistake, Vladimir Putin is a right-wing, authoritarian, fascist bastard. I want to say it's not as blatant, but that's not true. It is blatant. It is. Because what are people talking about? Instead of shit like climate change or nuclear war and how we can prevent shit like this from happening, we talk about bullshit. Fucking bullshit. The culture war. Trans people being able to take a piss. Or go in the bathroom of their choosing, or, fucking black people not having to worry if they're gonna get gunned down by a fucking cop that is a god complex. And we demonize marginalized people. That's what the fucking right does. They do that shit. Marginalized people who, in America, what's the original sin in America? Being black. You might say, what the fuck does that mean with this? But I think it ties into what I'm getting at with a lack of empathy here. There are people in this world who will look at a crying black person, and instead of looking at their pain, no, that's not even fair. There are people who will look at constant fucking examples of black people being murdered by police officers and have this mindset if they had it coming. Fucking George Floyd's murder was trivialized. The only reason that started this outcry of rage was because people were just sick of it. A select portion of society just collectively snapped because of the immorality of it. The blatant immorality of it. The fact that you had 3 cops there and none of them decided to grab Derek Chauvin off. None of them had the ball to be like, yo, what the fuck are you doing, man? None of them did that. 9 minutes of torture. And what did some right-wingers do? They trivialized it. They justified it. They instead added to their list of reasons to dehumanize black and brown people. This rant is just rambling as fuck. So, you clicked the video, so you probably saw the title. What the fuck does this have to do with Jordan Peterson? Okay. So, I didn't see all of Jordan Peterson's interview with Piers Morgan, but I watched the part that went viral. The part where he's crying about the tragedy of the incels, if you will. You know, the victimization of it. He cries for these people. Now, is it true to some extent that we're all not victims, but we're all just made to attack each other and fuck with each other because of petty bullshit? Yeah. But I looked at that Jordan Peterson clip and I saw his tears, and I don't think his tears were disingenuous. I think they were real tears. But the thought just screaming into my head was, you have all these tears for these men who are probably suffering some mental health shit. Your advice is questionable at best, and I would say pretty fucked at worst. But what I can't understand is why not expand that empathy to trans people, the very group you constantly fucking demonize. The reason he got popular was based off of misrepresenting Bill C-16, which just added gender identity to the list of protected classes. No fucking Canadian got thrown in jail because of it. The histrionics of it, my God, were just absurd. They were absurd at the time, and they're even more absurd in hindsight. That's what you got popular for basically just being a dick to trans people? Instead of having what I like to call opportunities for reflection, which are as follows. You have a negative interaction with someone that's marginalized. Say a black person, a trans person, an Asian person, a Hispanic person, a marginalized person in American society. They felt you've been racist to them, that you've wronged them, that you've been transphobic or homophobic or racist. And instead of having that what the fuck moment, because that's happened to me like once or twice, and when it did, it shook me to my core, because I know I'm not that way. But the fact that I made someone feel just othered disturbed me to my core, because it defies my moral compass. It was upsetting because I know I'm better than that. And I should be above that. And I think any person, any left-wing person, any liberal person, anyone that's just anti-racist should know that. That you are better than that and have the potential to be better than that. If there are problematic aspects with yourself, work on them. Look inward in a constructive way. Look at different theories on race. Or hell, you don't even have to do that. Just really listen to speeches or lectures by MLK or Cornel West or Malcolm X or numerous other black intellectuals that can really paint a picture of an experience that perhaps you, as a non-black or non-minority person, can't understand really. I can empathize with it so much, but I can't live it. Now again, what does any of that have to do with Jordan Peterson? It's the way he phrases things. I'd be lying if I said he was not a good wordsmith, just as many right-wing intellectuals are. They use their intellectualism, whether they know it or not, whether they acknowledge it or not, to bullshit, to mislead people. One of the most fucked up things that I think Peterson has done is given a excuse for men to despise women, to rationalize shit like, well, why do women wear lipstick? Red's a pheromone. Oh, how can men and women interact without men having these urges? That's your problem. That's the fucking truth. If you got a problem controlling yourself around female coworkers, that's on you. You need therapy. Because if you can't work with people of a different gender or different sexual orientation without either A, being a bigot, B, sexually harassing them, then you're fucked up. That's not society's fault. That's your own damn fault. If you gotta ask that fucking question, you're out of your fucking mind. It's called being a decent fucking human being. Which is not that hard to do. You treat people with respect, empathy, and you listen to people. You really listen to people. Which Jordan Peterson is not incapable of fucking doing. Which is what pissed me the fuck off about him. What pissed me the fuck off about him is the man should fucking know better. And instead of fucking knowing better, the man constantly dog whistles about fucking IQ, about the suffering of black and brown people by downplaying it, downplaying the history of colonialism, rationalizing fucking hierarchies through nature. Oh, well, the lobster you see as a hierarchical thing, and hierarchy are in nature, suggesting that we haven't evolved as a society, suggesting that we can't rise above it, suggesting that, we're no different than a fucking animal. To suggest that is fucking cynical. It's a sign, no, it is providing an excuse for some of our worst behaviors. Providing an excuse for some of the worst aspects of man. Man is capable of great good. It is also capable of great evil. What do I define as the great good? It is love. It is being able to look into the eyes of an animal, another person, and just having the knowledge that you care. Because because you're willing to give them your time. You're willing to listen to their suffering. You're willing to listen to their story. Now, keep in mind what I'm talking about here is an individual thing. This part of the rant revolves around a individualist, one-on-one type of thing. But on a macro level, I don't think that what I'm saying cannot also be applied. As long as the people doing it understand that we have I guess the long and short of it is, on a macro level, just leave people the fuck alone. And that we live in a very interconnected world. Way more interconnected than it was almost 100 years ago. And that because we are in a much more interconnected world, we can't have people in power just starting wars with other countries for no fucking reason. We can't just have 3 fucking imperialist superpowers controlling the lives of countries that don't have the means of really fighting back, even though they really should. The entire continent of Africa has every fucking reason to start their own UN and flip the East and the West right the fuck off. I don't know why I said right the fuck off when I just flipped the bird, but it still applies. You have these countries and these cultures with these vast resources. And yet, whenever they try to watch out for their own interests, if it gets in the way of the imperialist superpowers, whether that's the US, whether that's China, whether that's Russia, the imperialist will attack. The imperialist will go for the jugular. The imperialist will destroy that country to a point where it can't be rebuilt without the imperialists' help. Now, is that to say that some instances of a country being totally obliterated and the country that did the obliteration reaching out a helping hand is a bad thing? No. Look what the U.S. did with Japan. That's a prime example of atoning for your sins, if you will. Basically, to summarize, what do I think are the greatest evils facing our planet? Because that's what this really is. This is a rant against what I perceive as evil. Now, keep in mind, the type of evil I'm talking about is on a spectrum. You might think it's absurd to label some of Jordan Peterson's ideas as evil, but I think in this case, evil is on a spectrum. There's the evil, well, actually, I think all or most, when it comes to a sense of power and purpose, believe that their evil is good. There was a saying from George Lucas, and it's a quote that's always stuck with me. Evil people never believe they're evil. They always believe they're doing good, even when they're not. I think the greatest evils facing our society are nuclear war, climate change, racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, far-right fundamentalism, indoctrinating our children and wanting to whitewash our history, imperialism, famine, greed. These are the evils that I believe are fucking us over. How do we rise above it? I don't know. I'm a 26-year-old man with a YouTube channel and a college degree. But I'd like to think that the first step in that is empathy. Real fucking empathy. Not selective empathy, but real, genuine empathy and compassion for other people and other living beings. I think that's a pretty damn good first step. It's like, why is it so hard to just not be an asshole? I know, coming from me, that's kind of a funny statement, but it's true. It shouldn't be that hard for us to be willing to care for each other, care for the suffering of other people. But we turn a blind eye to it every fucking day. And I'm guilty of it as well. So maybe what I hope is the point of this video is that I got shit off my chest, that maybe through it you're willing to look at some books. I got a lot of books I'd be happy to recommend to people. Some people I greatly admire. Even though some of the people I greatly admire, some of them have some pretty questionable opinions. But I think they are still really good people. And you know what? Maybe this is a good time to open up my comment section again to a real dialogue. Because maybe I've just missed intellectual stimulation. With that in mind, live long and prosper. Thanks for watching my long ass rant that I hope had a fucking point. And I look forward to seeing you again when I make another video like this, or maybe something a lot less serious.